Today, we're diving into the incredible story of a legendary cavalry regiment, and it all revolves around how a single, devastating injury led to one of the most famous pieces of military gear ever created. It really all starts with this one kind of wild question. How on earth does a life-changing injury on the battlefield end up shaping the look of armies all around the globe for over a century? Well, the answer starts with one man, in the absolute heat of battle. This is pulled directly from an official citation for the Victoria Cross, which, is the highest possible award for bravery in the British military. It describes what Captain Sam Browne did during the Indian Mutiny of 1857. Just an unbelievable act of courage that came at a huge personal cost. But that loss, it sparked an invention born from pure necessity. So let's take a look at the man himself and the absolutely brilliant practical solution he came up with to deal with his injury. And here it is, the Sam Browne belt. You've probably seen it in movies or pictures. See, after losing his left arm, Captain Browne had a problem. He couldn't draw his sword easily with just one hand because the scabbard would flop around. So he designed this cross strap to hold everything steady. A super simple fix that was so darn effective, it was eventually adopted by armies all over the world. Okay, and this is where the story gets really, really cool. You can't separate the story of the belt from the story of the man. And you can't separate the story of the man from the regiment he commanded. In fact, his invention became so iconic that his unit was eventually named after him. To really understand this regiment, we have to go back to where it all began. And that's on one of the most dangerous and volatile borders of the British Empire, the northwest frontier of India. So the unit we know today as the 12th Cavalry was actually born when two older regiments merged. On the left, you've got the 22nd Cavalry, that was Sam Browne's original outfit, and on the right, the 25th Cavalry, which was formed with soldiers from the recently defeated Sikh Khalsa Army. Both of them were raised way back in 1849, and they were part of this elite group known as the Piffers. So what the heck were the Piffers? Well, it was a nickname for the Punjab Frontier Force. They were a special collection of elite regiments created for one reason: to guard that incredibly tough region. They had this legendary reputation because they recruited from local tribes who knew the terrain inside and out, and they had a lot of freedom to operate. Think of them as a frontier fire brigade, always ready for action. And in that environment of non-stop conflict, you better believe these regiments produced some incredible heroes, guys who were recognized with the highest honors imaginable. An astonishing 3 Victoria Crosses were earned between just these two parent regiments. Now, to put that into perspective, that is an almost unheard of concentration of valor for units this size. It's just incredible. Let's look at what they did to earn them. Right, so we've already heard part of Sam Browne's story. This quote fills in the heroic details. He basically single-handedly charged a heavy artillery cannon to stop it from firing on his own guys. It was during that desperate, gutsy charge that he lost his arm. The second VC went to Captain Dighton Probyn, who was also in the 2nd Punjab Cavalry. He was repeatedly cut off from his men, surrounded by enemies, and somehow fought his way out every time. Just pure, close-quarters desperation and bravery. And the third was awarded to Captain William Vousden of the 5th Punjab Cavalry. During the Second Afghan War, he led this small group of men in relentless charges, literally punching through the enemy lines over and over again, until a much, much larger force just broke and ran. So, with these legendary reputations forged in fire, the two regiments headed into the 20th century. But after the massive upheaval of World War I, the entire British Indian Army was about to get a major shakeup, and these two heroic units were destined to become one. Yeah. After the Great War, the military was totally restructured, and the cavalry, in particular, was downsized. So instead of just getting rid of these legendary units, they were amalgamated, merged together. In 1921, the 22nd and 25th were combined, and a year later, they were officially reborn as the 12th Cavalry Frontier Force. The newly formed regiment kept right on serving through the major conflicts of the early 20th century. But this timeline shows a huge, pivotal moment on the horizon. After being briefly turned into a training unit, 1947 arrives, and with the partition of India, the regiment faced a massive change to its very identity. It was transferred from the British Indian Army to the armed forces of the brand new nation of Pakistan. This really was the end of one era and the absolute beginning of another.
The regiment wasn't going to stay a training unit for long, though. No, it was destined to be reborn for a new army and a new century.
And that rebirth came on January 15th, 1955. The 12th Cavalry was officially re-raised, but not as horsemen. It was now an armored regiment of the Pakistan Army, swapping its horses for steel. I mean, just think about the scale of that transformation. It's huge. The entire nature of the regiment changed. Fundamentally, the mission was no longer about patrolling the frontier on horseback. It was about modern mechanized warfare and tanks. And in its new role, the regiment immediately began forging a new legacy. It served with distinction in major conflicts, from the brutal tank battles of the Indo-Pakistani Wars, earning a major battle honor at Cam Karan, all the way to high-altitude combat in the Siachen conflict, and critical internal security operations. The technology was new, but that tradition of service on the front line, that continued. This table really just sums up the regiment's incredible journey. You see two completely distinct eras here. Its identity shifted from these horse-mounted piffers doing frontier policing to a modern armored regiment responsible for national defense. The technology changed, the empire it served changed, but that core identity as an elite frontier force, it endured. And that brings us to a final, fascinating thought. From those early days on the frontier to the mechanized battlefields of today, the 12th Cavalry has kept this continuous thread of identity alive. So the real question is, what is it that allows the spirit of a military unit to survive such radical change across centuries, across empires, and even across the very tools of war themselves?